Having said all of that, did UNC deserve to be in the NCAA tournament? No. And their performance last night doesn't change that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that they are in the tournament. And like Jay said, they show on anybody else thereafter. If Ole Miss can't get it done, you got to bounce them out of there. They made it in, okay? Whether they deserved it or not is no longer relevant. They showed up last night, and they trounced San Diego State. They beat them by 27 points. You had R.J. Davis hitting 6 3-pointers, okay? You had them balling out, and they completely outplayed the competition, and we go from here. It doesn't prove that they belonged in the tournament, but there's a lot of teams that one could argue may not have belonged in the tournament, but they may have ended up in there, or somebody that may have belonged in and didn't end up in there. That's the way that it goes. Now that March Madness has arrived, it is what it is, and you just have to deal with it. That's the way I look at it.
Jay, how far do you think UNC can go?
They're fully capable of winning their next game against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is out of the Southeastern Conference, which was by far the best league in the country, and it wasn't close, top to bottom against the field. Ole Miss does not have a ton of size, so North Carolina matches up really well with them. And Ole Miss they're good at just about everything, but they don't have anything they do that I would put in the category of great. You know, some teams are great at this and they're great at that. But one thing, they take care of the ball. They don't turn it over, and they're very good at forcing turnovers, so their turnover margin is good. What they don't do particularly well is they're not a great rebounding team. Neither's North Carolina, but they rebound a little bit better than Ole Miss does. I think the issue is going to be, can Ole Miss keep North Carolina out of transition? You know, North Carolina's got speed, and especially their guards. They can get up and down the floor. Yeah, and they defend better. Now Carolina over the last 10 games, they had a lineup change. So Jalen Withers, who transferred in from Louisville a couple years ago, is in the starting lineup. And he's playing at a high level. He's starting to make perimeter shots, which is stretching the defense out. So they've become much better. They're running more action out of the middle of the floor. That means Help has a harder time getting to it. So I like their schemes. And R.J. Davis, who's a small guard, is starting to play at the level he did last year, where he's ACC Player of the Year. So they're confident, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and I like their chances against Ole Miss. Hey, Jay, it's still a toss-up game.
Jay, that be the case? Could you explain that to me, Jay?
Well, these first 4 games came in several years ago when one team left conferences, and now it was about how many automatic and at-large bids are going to be. So they just added teams to the field. And originally it was going to be all the 15 and 16 seeds playing each other. And the first 4 wasn't a big deal. Because right now, people don't really care about the tournament games until we get to the first Thursday when the 64-team field starts. Big shot 11 seeds against each other for viewership. And because the 15s and 16s felt it was a stigma for them to play in those games, that it's just sort of the bottom of Division I playing in those games. And so now you have a game we were all watching, North Carolina, San Diego State. We were all interested in that. So it's really a TV play in my view. And one last thing, I'm sorry to go on too long, but one last thing.
Two seeds are the most vulnerable when we begin tomorrow. Let me hear your take on that. Go ahead.
I still think Houston and Tennessee can get beat. They're both really good and really good defensively. They both rebound at a high level, but offensively, from time to time, they can have some issues. Less so for Houston than for Tennessee. Tennessee's big guys need to be a little bit more productive. That's the one area where I think they can be had. I think Alabama's a little bit vulnerable. I still favor them to get to the Elite Eight, but they've had some injuries.
My kids can do it. We all
they're
can do
banged
it.
up, and
Let's go
Grant
with
Nelson
one
didn't play
bracket
in
out of the
the
four
second
regions that could blow up, Jay, and you'd have a surprise. So I guess the question is, in your eyes, with that in mind, which 1 and 2 seeds are the most vulnerable when we begin tomorrow? Let me hear your take on that. Go ahead.
You know, I still think Houston and Tennessee can get beat. They're both really good and really good defensively. They both rebound at a high level, but offensively, from time to time, they can have some issues. Less so for Houston than for Tennessee. Tennessee's big guys need to be a little bit more productive. That's the one area where I think they can be had. I think Alabama's a little bit vulnerable. I still favor them to get to the Elite Eight, but they've had some injuries. They're banged up, and Grant Nelson didn't play in the second half of their game against Florida, and they got run out. And I still think Arizona and BYU, as the 4 and the 6 seeds in that region, can be really dangerous. I don't see as much of a problem for Auburn and Michigan State as 1 and 2 seeds in the South, although Texas A&M is in Auburn's way, and Auburn lost to them in College Station, the first of this kind of 3 out of 4 losses that they had to end the season. And honestly, outside of Texas Tech in the West, I think Florida and St. John's look pretty solid to get to the Elite Eight. I would have picked St. John's to get to the Final Four if they were in any other region, because I think Florida is the best team in this field.
I agree with you 100%. So it sounds like Houston and Tennessee in that Midwest. Great job.
Yeah, Jay will be back with us in the second hour.
Oh, good.
So
Very good.
You can ask him plenty more questions.
I love him. He's the best. You know that. Go ahead.
Yeah, with a dry sense
Norfolk
of humor.
State. I don't think Jay likes Norfolk State there, Steve, just in case, the 16th seed.
Yes, save that for the second hour. All right.